Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Hey, I want to welcome back to the show. We've got Mr. Jerry Cox is back with us. Always a pleasure to have him on, the president of the Family Council Action Committee. Jerry, welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So tell us, the big news is that we have Family Council Action coming out with their legislative report card, 2017 legislative report card. I'm sure you're pretty excited about it.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, this is the first one of these that we have done, but the reason we did this is when I travel the state of Arkansas, people always ask me, how's my guy doing? Meaning, how is my state representative or my state senator doing down in Little Rock? And, you know, a lot of times I say, oh, I think they're doing great, or, yeah, pretty good, or not so good. And so this report card just tells, you know, well, yeah. They got an A, they got a B, they got a C, they got a D, or they got an F. And what we ended up doing, Paul, is we, Family Council, was active on 25 different bills in the House and 25 different bills in the Senate. So he said, okay, let's give 4 points for each vote that agreed with us on those bills, and, you know, 100 points possible. Standard grading scale, you know, anything 90 and above is an A, any below 60 is an F, you know, and we gave A, B, C, D, F grades based on how they did. And, you know, I was surprised, actually, because some of the people that I thought would make an A ended up making a low B.
Yeah.
And some people I thought might make a C ended up making A's. And that's the good thing about having an objective scoring method, because our opinions don't enter into it. It's really how they voted on the bills that were of importance to us.
Yeah.
And I think of importance to a lot of other folks around the state, because it's all the pro-life bills, it's the homeschool bills, it's ones related to tort reform and, you know, marijuana issues, marriage issues, those kinds of things. Yeah. So it's those social moral issues, really.
I just want to go down the list real quick of those who got A's, and that we're talking 90 or above. Starting with the top, we have from Senate District 19, Senator Linda Collins Smith at 96% A, tied with Senator Larry Teague, a Democrat, at 96. And that's really interesting. I mean, I'm sure, because when Conduit for Commerce released their scorecard, there was just a ton of people in maybe the Republican Party that, you know, disagreed with it, wanted to throw stones at it or whatever. And I don't know if your guys are going to get that kind of criticism as well, but I would say with two Democrats, because Eddie Cheatham is number 3 on the list with 95%, also a Democrat. But again, I think that speaks to your objectivity, Jerry.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect those two guys to get A's, but they did. They voted. At the end of the day, they didn't bluster and strut around and talk about how, you know, conservative they are. They just voted that way, you know. And I can't, you know, I can't not give them a good grade. I mean, I wouldn't be honest if, people say, well, how dare you give an A to a Democrat? Well, they earned it. They earned it by how they voted. Yeah. And that's, you know, it may be like people look at a class of kids in school and say, well, that kid over there, I don't like that student. But he might still make an A, and so you give him his A and go on. And I happen to like both of those guys. They're very likable. But a lot of people think that we're some extension of the Republican Party, and we're just not. And, you know, if I was, I sure wouldn't have been giving two Democrats A's.
Yeah.
But they deserve it. They earned it.
Yeah. And again, you know, you were just saying, hey, look, this is just about the bills. This is how you voted. I want to finish up with this list. So at the top, Senator Linda Collins Smith, Senators Larry Teague, Eddie Cheatham, Terry Rice, David Sanders, Representative Stephen Meeks, Representative Clint Penzo. Then Senators Cecile Bledsoe and Scott Flippo getting A's. Representative Andy Mayberry, Senator Gary Stubblefield with the 91, and then State Representative Charlotte Douglas with the 90. From there, you get to the Bs, but those are, the ones who got A's. And I love what you say here. I believe it's towards the bottom. Well, no, I don't have the statement. Maybe it was, but you basically say, look, this is just a reflection of how you voted. Sometimes, you get pushback on that. Sometimes people don't like to be told how they voted. At least that's my experience, Jerry. What about yours?
Well, yeah, and so, there are some people that might say, well, I'm a better Christian than so-and-so, or I'm more conservative than so-and-so, or I go to church more than so-and-so does. Or they might even say, well, that guy, goes out here and drinks at the bar. And I'm like, I'm not grading them on whether they drink at the bar or not. I'm grading them on how they voted on these issues that were of importance to us. Mm-hmm. And it's not my place to go out and grade them on their morals or how good a Christian they are or any of those things, although I hope that they are moral. I hope they are Christian. They need to be. But I'm not grading them on that. And so this is how they voted. But, that's really, when you come right down to the nut of what it is, that's what you're there for as a lawmaker. You're there to cast votes. And how you vote makes a difference. And people want to know, how did you vote? And so that's what this tells, is how they voted.
So the website, folks, if you guys want to check this out for yourself, is arkansasreport.com. And then you have several options. You can click to see the report. And if you want to see the bills that they scored, you go to the report card, and then you click individually on the representative's name. So we just clicked on Senator Linda Collins Smith, and then, of course, you can see all of the votes that they scored. And you make it pretty easy, pretty simple. You say how they voted on each one, and then in parentheses you say whether Family Council considers that a good vote or a bad vote. But I want to focus on one bill you scored in particular that has a lot of Republican Party establishment support, and that is SJR 8. It is called a tort reform measure, and we will be voting, the people will be voting on this, not this coming November, but next November in 2018. And so I'm just curious, can I get your take on why you thought it was a bad bill? So in this case, Senator Linda Collins Smith voted against it, which Family Council said was a good thing. Tell us about that, Jerry Cox.
Well, yes. SJR 8 is so-called tort reform. I think we would all say there are too many frivolous lawsuits, too many greedy lawyers out there looking to make a buck. There's just too much of that stuff going on. So there's good tort reform, and there's not so good tort reform. SJR 8 is not good tort reform because it screws it down so tight that I fear that nursing homes and other institutions that care for old people, disabled people, may be so unlikely to get sued if they mistreat somebody that they may end up compromising care. So they look over there and say, yeah, that person over there's got bed sores, but the most they can sue me for is this much, and we're good, and I'm just going to let that go. And they cut back on staff and that sort of thing. So I think we do need tort reform. We supported tort reform during the session, but we did not support this one because I think it allows nursing homes and others to reduce staff, compromise care, and in the end, I'm afraid disabled people and old people may end up be the ones that suffer because of it.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, a fear of a lawsuit really does make people behave a lot of times, and I think we need to maintain that.
Yeah. And then, of course, you also have damages. In SJR 8, you're going to have somebody, if they are a victim, they may not be able to get compensated fairly for what happened to them.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's a child that has no earning ability, stay-at-home mom who doesn't have a job, all those folks are devalued under SJR 8 if they're killed or injured. They can't collect as much in non-economic damages, and I think that's an important part of that. So, yeah, there's a lot. We could do a whole program, on tort reform and the difference between good and bad tort reform, but just understand that we as an organization did support good tort reform, but we do not support SJR 8.
Yeah.
And So that's the way that came out.
It's going to be a battle.
But,
going to be a battle next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But I hope that this is a tool that voters can use in addition to our voter guide that surveys people before they run for office to see what they tell us they're going to do. This really tells you what they did. This tells you if they kept their promise or not. And so a person could take this and put it alongside our voter guide and say, okay, he said he was for this before he got elected, but after he got elected, he turned around and voted just the opposite. I don't know if I like that or not. And I think you could find some of that if you compared the two.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I think that's certainly something that I want to do. I'd love to compare the two because your surveys that you send out are so I would just say well respected. It's a good thing. You send them out. They send their responses, and then you print the voter guide saying, hey, these people, and then you kind of know there's some people that don't even fill them out, and you're like, okay, most of the time those are Democrats. And so it's a good thing. I definitely want to do that, Jerry. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
So
that's what we want to do is give people more tools to be able to see how their lawmakers vote. And you know what? A lot of these folks are my friends, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to cheer you on every step of the way. I'm going to help you every way I can, but I will hold you accountable for your votes because people want to know how you voted, and I'm that's part of my job is to do that.
What do you think out of these bills that you scored? What was the biggest victory? And you can define victory as getting something passed, or you can define victory as stopping something from getting passed. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I think collectively the pro-life bills that we worked on were the victory of the session. Because, quite frankly, I think the abortion facility down here in Little Rock is probably on the verge of closing. They've lost about 25% of their business in the last 2 years. And these lawsuits that Planned Parenthood and the abortion clinic and ACLU have filed to try to kill off these good pro-life laws that we just got passed, I think is a desperation move on their part just for them to try to survive. Because even in their pleadings before the court, they said, if these laws go into effect, we will have to close our doors. And so I think they're feeling the pinch on that. But see, it's my hope that these laws will reduce the demand for abortion, where people will say, you know what, if it's not legal, then I ain't doing it. I'm going to put my child up for adoption, or we'll make another choice that's a good choice, and we won't do an abortion. And so I think we're making great strides there, and I think when those cases go to the Eighth Circuit, I think we're going to prevail in a bunch of them, and I think we're going to continue to see the number of abortions go down here in Arkansas.
Very well said, Mr. Jerry Cox with the Family Council Action Committee. We appreciate it very much. Again, folks, it's ArkansasReport.com. Check out this great legislative scorecard. It's a resource, and I'm certainly going to be comparing the surveys because I'm interested now. I'd love to do that. I really appreciate it, Jerry.
Okay, have a good day.
All righty, you too, sir.
All right.
Folks, we're going to take a break. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Going to be back, though, in just a minute.